Hello Flosstube, I'm Lori of Mischievous Stitches and welcome to my channel this weekend. I'm just here to show everyone what I've been working on this week, or actually not to show you but to share with you. I have a crochet finish and a cross stitch whip and just a few things that I picked up this weekend while out junking. So I'm going to start with the crochet whip basket. I've been showing these. This will be the 4th or 5th video that I have showed these whip baskets, and I enjoy making them. I've posted for the past couple of weekends any finishes I've had on Instagram just to sell because I've enjoyed making them, but I always get lots of questions, and one of the main ones is where I get the pattern. It's not a pattern that I'm using. I'm following a tutorial from someone else that is here on YouTube, and her name is Jada in Stitches, and she doesn't call it a whip basket. That's my name, and I have linked this tutorial in both the first and second video that I have shown these in, and I always get 2 or 3 requests as to what pattern I'm using. I'm not using a pattern, but if you go back a couple of videos, the tutorial is linked below in the description box below the video. You can also find it linked on Instagram on the first and second post that I made concerning these baskets. I don't mind sharing it, but when I get those questions and I want to answer them, then I have to navigate to, it takes me 2 or 3 minutes just to link that into the answer to your question. So if you don't mind, just navigate back to 2 or 3 videos to find that link, or navigate to Instagram and look through my post and find the whip baskets, because they're also listed there. And you can also follow Jada in Stitches, which is the tutorial that I followed. But I made this one at the beginning of the week. I used 2 variegated yarns and a solid color yarn. I love it. When I use more than one variegated yarn, in my opinion, I think it turns out more stripy, more colorful, and I like that. This one looks very Easterish to me. I've also got questions about whether, some people have stitched them and ask, are they floppy? You can see this one's floppy. And what I mean by that, when I take pictures of them, all I do is sit them on a table, and yes, you can puff them out, but there's nothing in them. They're like a bag, like a purse over time. They're made out of yarn, so they're not sturdy. I know in one of the videos someone mentioned that, I can't remember whether it was twine, but anyway, that specific person crocheted a more stable yarn, something that was thicker and more sturdy to help her stand up. I don't mind if mine are floppy, the ones that I have made for myself, and I only have 2. I don't mind that they're floppy, because once I fill these with my cross stitch pattern, or one I use with that has my stitch 9 pieces in it, and the other one I use when I'm crocheting, so I put the yarn inside and crochet from that basket. It works really well with those yarns because there's nothing inside for them to catch on. So I enjoy crocheting from them and using these as the nest for my yarns. And once again, the ones that have my stitch 9 pieces in it, it is standing up just fine because it's full of stash. But when it is empty, of course it's collapsible, it's floppy, you can fold it up, it's not going anywhere. So just keep that in mind when you're making them. I don't think there's been any other questions about them this week, other than I have gotten a couple questions once again concerning the yarns. Someone mentioned that they had, and remember, I'm a beginner crocheter. It's been mentioned to me that the yarn, there will be leftover yarn, or they don't use all the yarn, and I don't either. What I have done a couple of times is actually I'm making one now, is to take the leftover yarn that I'm having and use it to work on. This one's not complete, this one is in process. But this is leftover yarns. You can see the bottom has some yellow in it. That was a variegated floss that I had used a week or so ago. This blue is something I had used in another project. And as you can see here, I've got a partial ball I'm working with, a partial skein here. And I've gotten to the end where I'm going to need to start weaving in another color, and I may use a gray. It just depends on what I have. And a lot of what I have are small. Usually when I'm done with one of these baskets, and I think it's a 300, let me look. Where did I put those? Sorry I didn't research this more. But like I said, I don't know a whole lot about this. But the banding that's on the yarn, I want to say the ones that I have are someone said grams, and I responded with grams, and I meant yard. But I think it was a 300 yard skein. And I always have leftover of about this much. The variegated skeins, I think it's 252 yards. And I will use up almost all of those to where there's not much. This is about what's left in a variegated with, I think it's 252 yards. I need to verify that before I say any more, because I hate for that to be incorrect. And I'm telling everyone here incorrectly. So hold on just a second. There's a ball over here. Hold on. Okay, let's see. Yes, this is 252 yards. And I told the lady 252 grams because she asked me about grams. So I apologize about that. I was incorrect. And I just wanted to kind of clear that up. And if you have any other questions, I will do my best to answer them. But I'm still learning myself. Just keep that in mind. So I don't intentionally give you the wrong information on anything, to be honest. But it happens, and I will try to get the correct information if at all possible. So 252 of the variegated in yards, 300 yards of the solid color skeins, and if you use the 300, you're going to have a good bit left over. Not enough to make another basket, but enough to have make a scrap basket at some time using the leftover. So there's that. And I've not worked on my Stitch 9 Crochet Afghan this week at all. Not stitched a whole lot this weekend. Crocheted a lot either. What little bit I have worked on is going to be on Susan Rambo, and I have to say I have a girl crush. I'm really enjoying this piece. What little time I could squeeze away this week to work on her. I have completed the first, the top portion of the border. And this is her. For those of you who have not watched my video before and do not know, this is the Susan Rambo reproduction sampler, Susan Rambo 1839. And this is the piece. And this is my piece. Now, you can see when I hold it up to myself how large she is. This is stitched on 28 count cashel linen in cream. And it is 2 strands of floss over 2 linen threads. And so she's going to be a really big girl. She is a really big girl. But I love the border on the top. It's just amazing. I love those flowers. And I was told this week by Becky from here on Flosstubes, she's Socks for Mom. She is part of a sampler guild in Texas. I think Cozy Egg Michelle is part of it, as well as Miss Venzel. I can't remember her Flosstube name. But she's they're both in this guild, or all 3 of them are in this guild together, and it's the Tudor Rose Sampler Guild. And Becky said that she was inspired to buy this. I do believe Michelle already had it, didn't you, Michelle? Michelle and I have similar taste in stitches, especially the samplers, and it doesn't surprise me if she did if she did have it, but I'm thinking she did. I just love this. I love this border. I love that every single flower in the top of this border is different. You can see going down the side, both of these flowers are different. And yet there is, this side and the opposite side are both, they're both the same. The flowers are the same. But so far, every flower I have stitched has been different in some way. And I really like it. This one reminds me of a fried egg. With that yellow in the middle. I think this one is my favorite. And I will say there are, Susan was a young girl, so she made errors in her stitching. And on the pattern, it does have the errors marked. So if you want to have a true reproduction and stitch it just like Susan, you're able to do that. But it is marked in a way where if you want to correct them, you do. And I have been correcting some of the issues when I go, if they just trouble me too much. When I came to this one, there were several, like the polka dots, for lack of a correct word, or speckles, freckles on that flower, were not symmetrical at all. The center was off. It was perfect on 3 of the sides, and one side was just off, which threw the speckle, freckle polka dots off, and I ended up making this one perfectly symmetrical. When I got to this one, it is slightly different from this one in that it is bordered. You can see that the center is not perfect. And in nature, they're not perfect, but they're still beautiful. And so I left this one imperfect, but did my best to perfect this one. It was just how I was feeling that day. And several days later when I stitched this one, I didn't have the urge to make that one symmetrical, and I didn't. And I may continue to do that. Just go with whatever mood I'm in that day. So I'm looking forward to getting down further. This is another cartouche that I started on for the names. And on Susan's sampler, that was where she put her parents' names. And actually says parents' names. So, as I've said in previous videos, I'm going to be changing those names up to be my family names. And I have decided that, like here in this center cartouche, will be my name with my maiden name. And then here would be, this is grandparents, and I'm going to put my, of course, maternal and paternal grandparents' names here. And here will be my parents' names. And then here it has siblings. I'm not going to put, I have one sister, no brothers. But what I'm going to do here instead of siblings is I will put my children. And here, I'm not sure what names are here for her, but I'm also going to put my husband and my name as married names. So that would be my name, my parents' names, my grandparents' names, my children's names, my husband, and my name. I may just put his name and our wedding date, but I want to show that this was maiden, and in some portion, a part of it, put my married name. And I'm going to incorporate Canaan's name in there somewhere as well, with a small cross. So, I'm not sure where I'm going to do that at. And Canaan is my grandson. And that's my plans. So, I'm enjoying working on her. I'm still actively market shopping. I'm having so much fun this year market shopping. There's so many great samplers, and as someone reminded me, there's lots of other great designs too, and I know that there are, but what I have been honing in on are the samplers. I've really enjoyed looking at those this year. So this week I'm going to continue to work on her. I have been monogamously stitching on her and enjoying it. How long that's going to last, I do not know, but I'm going to go with the flow. Yesterday, Clint and I got up, and our dog had passed away, so we had to take care of that. And we had some errands to run. So you can probably hear my voice, and you know, your animals are your children too. So I'm fine. just a little thoughtful. So we're going to miss him. I don't know that I'm going to go out and get another friend. That's what he was. I was a friend. I don't know that I have any plans to get another friend anytime soon. So anyway, we flash forward. We had errands to run. We ran out and took care of our errands, and just to settle nerves, we do what I call rambling. We ramble around, and we ended up junking. That was what our rambling is, turned into, was junking. There was a few places we found about an hour and a half from our home, and I loved the name of the place. It was called Antique and Uncle Junk's. I love the play on that names, and I went in there, and remember me telling you, or maybe you don't, I had saw a blanket coverlet like this about a month ago, and it was priced as it should be. It was expensive for me, and I ran across this one for $40, and I put it on my bed. It is a full queen size coverlet, and it's in like a buttercream color, and I just absolutely love it. There are no nicks, no pulls, no holes other than the ones that were intended to be there. You can see that this is the edge here, and I want to have it dry cleaned. I don't want to. I'm not sure about that. I thought about getting it dry cleaned, and then I thought I may be a little careful. I'm not working in that dry clean shop, and I want to make sure it's taken well care of, so I may put her in my tub and soak her and wash her myself by hand. I may do that as well. That will be next weekend. I also ran across something for $6, and it was actually near where you check out. And so I had grabbed the blanket and some other things. And then I saw this sitting there in a bag for $6. And I put this up on Instagram last night. It's a table runner and 2 placemats. And they're a little dingy, and I think the color, I don't think these were ever white. But I just want you to see the needlework in it. Like many of you, I'm a sucker for needlework. So when I see something this fantastic for something as low as $6, Michelle Bendy started that term, Save the Stitches. I think Marlene from Stitching by the Lake has been saving stitches and made a post on Instagram this week where she now has a Save the Stitches wall. I don't know what I'll do with these. I just know that they have a happy home here. But look at this work. I don't believe this piece to be machine done. I say that because when I flip it over, you can see the trailing threads. It is still what I consider to be exquisite stitching. But like the embroidery around the oval cutout, you can see that it's wonky a little. You can see the trailing threads. You see the stain. I think this is absolutely gorgeous. So what is this? Maybe 4 feet? I mistakenly called this heart anger. And I did because of the cut work and I don't know what count fabric this is, but it is much more densely. It's a high thread count. I don't think I could stitch on that. Definitely without aid. There's no way I could stitch on it. But the work on this is just exquisite. It's beautiful. I sat in the car on the way home and just looked at the cut work on these pieces. Arlene Cohen here, works by ABC, is here on Flosstube too, and she commented she thought it was called needle lace. Now I've seen people do needle tatting, but I had never heard of needle lace, so I did a little research on it last night, and I didn't come up with much, and then someone else made a comment on my Instagram post and gave a specific term for the type of needle lace. And you know what? It started with an R. Let me look real quick. And that, when I looked under that term and then looked under images, there were several images that came up with a description of that type of lace. And let me go again. Excuse me for, talk amongst yourselves for just a minute. It's Reticella, Reticella needle lace. When I looked it up, do you remember in history class in school seeing the very lacy collars that medieval women would wear? Those with money. Not the peasants, but Queen Elizabeth. You know what? Let me see if I can pull that up too on my phone. That's what this is. And they learned over time, I think they have been, this type of work has been stitched since the late 1500s. And they learned that at first they started with drawn thread, is where you pull the vertical and horizontal stitches from a stitch piece and weave them back in and use the remaining vertical and horizontal threads as the base or the framework to weave threads around to make your lace. Then they learned they didn't need to do that. And that's where the needle lace come in. So where I mistakenly took this as heartanger because there's vertical and horizontal threads, it's not vertical and horizontal threads from the fabric, but it's actually needle threads woven around with the needle to create the framework to base that stitching. So let me show you. And Arlene, if I get any of this wrong, correct me. But also, this was just a few minutes that I stole this morning looking this up after I got those Instagram responses. And it should pop right back up in my viewer. It did. But I want you to see the images. Can you see the colors here? That is the same type of needle lace, just way more intricate. And then there's specific types that are named after people that come up with them. One more show. And the Reticella, I'm assuming that's how it's said, has been around for a long time. And it's also, I can't even say that. There's a French term for it as well. But here is a young lady that has one of those very starched collars that is once again made out of this needle lace. So I'm sure there's other books out there that can give you much better explanations than this lady here with her 30-45 minutes of Wikipedia research. But if you're interested in the needle lace and you want to know more, look for it elsewhere than on Mischievous Stitches' Flosstube channel. But this is one of the placemats. So I just wanted y'all to see that. I wanted to share it. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again here, how when I go into a shop and I see something that I feel is so beautiful like this, that is in a shop for $6. It kind of breaks my heart. And to use Michelle Bendy Stitches' term again, saving the stitches, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm saving the stitches because the person putting that price tag on them, they're not appreciating, and it's probably because they don't know what they have in their hands, but they're not appreciating what they have, or maybe they just can't move it, or sell it's what I mean by that term. But I brought it home, and I don't know what I'll do with it, but I'm going to wash it up. I'm going to try to get those stains out, and I'm going to handle it with care and with love while it's here with me. I'm giving it a good home. I did buy a few other things, and before I let you go, I'm going to show you the last thing that I got. I'm excited because in just a couple months we're going to have strawberries, and I love to make strawberry jalapeno jam and jelly, and I've been wanting one of these, and I've been able to find portions of it, but not the whole. And the reason I wanted this is something I remember my grandmother using when she would can. So if you know what this is, you know how special this is going to be when I'm making those jams and jellies. I have been able to find these, but not these, or find this and not the other. And I've even been able to find this, but without the stand. So I have all three pieces. Got it for pennies, and I'm very excited to have this. It's going to help me when I make my jams and jellies this year. It would have been nice if I had known the importance of those things before my grandparents passed on, or had a love of them before then. But now I look back and remember the things in their kitchens, or just things around their house that I would think, I wish that I had asked for that. And hindsight's always 20/20, isn't it? So this week, I'm going to continue to work on Susan Rambo. I'm probably more than likely going to finish that. I'm calling it a scraptastic basket, where I'm using small scrap balls on that basket that I showed you that's partially done. I'm going to finish that scraptastic basket, and that's it. So I hope everyone has a great week, that it's filled with joy and with happiness and lots of stitches. See you soon. Bye-bye.